Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. We'll give an opportunity to join us. And today we will have very interesting topic about collaboration of BA specialist with UX UI designer. And Vladislav, how many projects have you had where it was necessary to collaborate with UX UI designers?
I would say each and every of them, only maybe excluding the last one because now we're leading UAT, but previously almost all of them included this kind of collaboration. It's
It's interesting
like
because
5 or 6 at least, yeah,
oh,
something like that.
interesting. Yes, because from my experience, I have only a half of my project that was related to some UX UI issues and with collaboration with UX UI designers. So I suppose you have a lot of experience to share with our audience.
Yeah, but also I really like the projects when you can interact with the end user and just like the direct communication makes me happier, and those I try to choose those projects where it's possible. So, and I have been given the opportunity to do so.
Great. It's very good soft skills, I suppose.
Yeah, and
Because I know
colleagues were
that,
also great.
yeah, I
It
know
was a
that
pleasure.
a lot of BAs choose some more closer projects where they shouldn't connect with anyone from end users or for some another teams. Hello,
Isn't that
everyone.
boring? It would make as for me when you are being a BA is the best feature of the work is to communicate with end users so you can just take a look at how they view the product, and when they're satisfied, like in all after like UAT or something, they're satisfied and you feel that satisfaction and you also satisfy yourselves because of your work. So yeah, interesting to
Yeah,
know that.
maybe it's like an old-fashioned business analyst
Maybe maybe
or some back-end business analyst that just would like to connect the dots and that's all. Okay, I suppose that we can start. And first of all, a couple of moments from my side, from our community side. So today we will have our next webinar, in-depth interviews, collaborating with UX/UI designer. Our speaker, Vladislav Golovanov, will share his experience and take a look at the real-life case of fruitful collaboration between BA and UX/UI designers. And we will go through the whole flow of aligning the vision, preparing for the interviews, created artifacts, and approach to the interviews itself. A couple of additional moments from our community. A recording will be provided after the presentation. You can send your questions in the chat during the event and we will read it at the end of our webinar. Also, you can give thank you badges for our speaker, and also it's possible to put a rating in the event page. And also we have one very interesting activity during the events. At the end, our speaker will choose the best question in his opinion, and the author will receive a badge. So do not be shy and ask your questions, and we will try to ask on all of them. And now I suppose that we can start our webinar, and Vladislav, you have the floor.
beautiful. Thank you. So let me introduce myself once again. I'm Vladislav Golovanov, currently located in Berlin, Germany. I'm a senior BA in the company. I'm working in the company for almost 2 years, so I'm kind of newbie, but still. And today I would like to have a little talk with you about my very nice and fruitful experience on my previous EPAM project with the UX UI designer, where I had opportunity not to act only as a BA, but also act as a PO or proxy PO, as it would be more precise. So the project was the development of the AI slash ML platform. So it's like artificial intelligence and machine learning which is basically a zero code problem for platform for one of the biggest Eastern European banks. The product is very complex, so we had to ensure that our users could use it in the best way, so the onboarding time will be the fastest one, and there won't be any some tough impediments on the way to enjoy the product. So, and me, as a product CPO, I was given the opportunity to work. I was given like the whole cards, and I had an opportunity to rework the UX UI for the way it will be useful, beautiful for our customers, and it will be highly appreciated by them. So I decided to implement some product management and product ownership activities to that. So why do you even need the in-depth interviews? First of all, we should take a look a bit about the situation which was in the product. First of all, before this the start of this like little project inside of the huge product development life, I would say, there was a lack of really insightful feedback on the product and the user experience. And in that situation, the team doesn't really know like properly what is going on with the product, what is going on with the customers and users. Probably the only way to communicate with them and to understand if they're satisfied or not and what is going on was the UAT and nothing else. So it led us to the lack of feedback and understanding of the experience of our users. Second one, there was an issue with the product UI development strategy because there were 4 teams working on the product. The product was very big. Almost 100 people worked on it. And sometimes those teams were not properly aligned. Some of teams didn't have a BA, so it also make an effect on that. And at some point there were 3 designers which had not communicated like that well. So there should have been like proper product UI development strategy to be developed and to be shown so everybody could stick to it. And the third one, why we decided to redevelop the UI. Users were notably dissatisfied with the product. That we knew from the complaints, from the support. So we gained all this information, and that led us to decisions that we can take a look, what can we do? How do you know? How do you know what to do? How do you know which kind of steps you should take to make users more happy? Basically, we implemented the HIDI cycle, which is classical for product management, but in our peculiar way. So first of all, we analyzed the customer journey map, which is basically the whole flow of interaction, the every little point our user interact with the product from the very beginning till the very end. Then, based on that information, we draw some sketches. I will tell you about it a bit later. Analyzed it from our own perspective, and at that part, I was not the only person involved. So, as a PO, as a proxy PO, I have decided that due to those prerequisites, as we have discussed previously, due to the need of the proper product UI framework development, and in general to get a better understanding of our users' needs, we must collaborate with the UX UI. Sometimes UX UI and specialists and BAs are doing some like competition inside the project. But at that point, we had to synchronize ourselves. We had to synchronize our understanding, our the business context I can bring from my part of experience and in my part of work, and the experience in the UX UI from the specialist. That will be the perfect mixture. And we tried to achieve the results by getting this perfect mixture. problem, like mixed in the same bottle. So after we analyzed the CGM and requests, we identified some of weak points, pain points, and by them we have formulated the hypothesis list. Then we proceeded to conducting the interviews itself, and then we understood and we tried to assess the results. Let's go to take a little bit deeper look at all of the points. So first of all, we have talked about the CGM, but after that, we should take a look at the hypothesis, because the hypothesis is like a little deliverable from the previous set. So we should understand what should we know, what should we gain, at which kind of information, so we'll be able to formulate the hypothesis. The structure was the same as we have seen on as you can see on the screen. And not only we created those hypotheses, we tried to make at least 20 of them, but we also, because of this little research beforehand, we have explored the way how important some of them might be for users, how and which are not. And we have also prioritized them using the RISE framework, which is basically is based on the reach. So how many users will be affected by the feature, by this hypothesis, which will lead us to feature, and the impact and our certainty of this impact will, if there will be any impact at all. So this one we created a table of almost 20 hypotheses. Each of them had this structure, and it really helps you to visualize, to when you even write those things down, you get a better understanding of what is going on. And when you take a look at this table with those hypotheses, you get a better understanding. Sometimes you can be like very lazy and do not write those hypotheses and like try to do everything in your brain. But when you start to write it down, you get a clear understanding, the clear, and you understand the bigger picture. So after that, we take a little bit deeper approach, and we try to make some sketches. So we have also transformed those hypotheses into the parts of the user flow. So we have created basically the user flow as our little idea for how this hypothesis might be implemented. Why did we need that? Because when you create this user flow diagram, you can really understand at which part of the product do you operate. And by writing all these things down, you basically get some questions for the in-depth interview. So this approach is very helpful. We have used Figma, especially the very new feature of Figma, FigJam, which basically allows you to create this kind of diagrams. But Miro is also can be an option. What were our keys to success? Why all this happened? It happened in a nice way. First of all, it's very important. Maybe it's like one of the basic rules, but it's very important to synchronize your vision and interview strategy beforehand. So you will be at the same page, you will have the same context, and you will not have like very contrary opinions during the interview. So you will be active listener, you will be focused only on the extracting data from the interviewee. Second part is also it might be very obvious, but is sometimes we are like very lazy to do this stuff, but really, at the same time as vision synchronization, you should write down all the interview questions, and we did it in that way. So I came up with my interview questions. The UX/UI specialist came with hers. We take a look at them, we analyze them, we made some little changes because it's very important to have those questions open-ended. So we are not guiding people, we are not guiding our users, but we do our job properly. Third point is we acted as a team. As I stated previously, sometimes UX specialists and BAs are having like a little competition. So, and by the nature of those two roles, you have different context, and to make things work, you should act as a team. And during the in-depth interviews, it's very important that you have that you apply active listening. So you are trying to basically to understand what is going on and what is our users keep telling, and you just do not try to follow the flow that you have previously developed, but you also dig into the user's words and into his thoughts and try to gain as much insight and information out of that. And the fourth point was to conduct as many interviews to the point when answer of each user start to repeat. At that point, you understand that you have done your job at this little part, and you should not, there is no meaning to do more interviews, because basically when you get this amount of some kind of batch of people interview it and they saying practically the same answers and the same pains and insights, then you can see that you have gained all the information which is possible for now, and this is information that you can go forward with. So what's next? What did we do next? And what have we implemented? We delivered. We have delivered after the interviews, after those insights, we reprioritized the hypothesis matrix based on the information we gained. We elaborated and understood the key product pain points. We have adjusted CGM so it will be closer to the real life. And we have developed a list of user scenarios to be implemented. So it's like more towards the documentation development itself. Let's take a little look on why it is even needed and it's useful to do the in-depth interviews. First of all, you get rich and very detailed data. Because those interviews allows interviewee to share their thoughts and experience, like, and that basically the person is telling you what is going on, how he would solve this kind of issue, how would he behave in this part and in this part, and then why in that way and in this way. In this helps to uncover insights and some nuances that might be overlooked and might not be figured out by different requirement elicitation methods. Second one is personal connection. When you're having like basically face-to-face interview, you build very strong personal connection. So person on the other side, the interviewee, he understands why, like, who you are. Like, you are not some kind of guy who texted an email and doesn't know who it is. You get to know each other. You understand. You have an empathy for this interview, and you can understand what he's gained. You can take the most proper approach to the interview, so you can get them more information. And after that, in our case, those interviewed people were great UAT testers. They provided the best feedback, and by having those in-depth interviews, they felt involved, and they were very interested into providing new insights, new feedbacks on their own. So we basically changed the flow a little bit beforehand. We were the ones who came there and asked some questions, and after those in-depth interview, people were encouraged to provide their feedbacks regularly and like at any time, and establishing some sessions and meeting and whatever. So people felt that they are needed, and people felt that they have also an opportunity to change the product to better, and that increased the chemistry among the users even more. Also, the opportunity for clarification. It's it's great because when you interview a person, you can do the interview for so much time that you want. So there is no time limitation in terms of like you have asked all your questions and that's it. No, you can dig deeper and deeper and understand all of this, all the little points, uh, which is very useful to understand the context. And as I have said previously, those users which were involved in the in-depth interviews were willing to participate in testing, and so they were chosen for the user acceptance testing groups. But all sounds very good, very nice, and you can think that maybe it's like perfect approach and we can implement it all the time. Unfortunately, not. For each instrument, there should be this nice place to use. You can use one instrument in one situation, and for other situation, it's not viable to do that. So let's take a look at the cons. Those in-depth interviews are very time-consuming. So when you have a project which is very tight on the deadlines, you might not have an opportunity to have an in-depth interviews because it's at least 1 hour per session, and you have like 12 or more sessions for your hypothesis list. And sometimes, as it was for us, we have conducted several iterations. So first round of like 10 or 12 interviews conducted, then we have adjusted the stuff. We had a little talk with the business and with the product management team and the development team, and then we gained some new insights, and then we came back and conducted more rounds of interviews. So it's like very time consuming, and at the same time as it's time consuming, it's very costly. And also you should be very uh, accurate, and you should be really prepared to do those interviews because there is a potential for bias, because it's very tricky not to lead the person to the answer that you wanna get. So you have developed some kind of flow in your mind, and you have the vision, and you think this vision is the very best and is the ideal one. And sometimes you can lead person to that decision, but that's not the way, because even subconsciously, by asking some questions, the interviewer can be led to the decision, and the decision and the insight that he's sharing by those leading questions are not the one that he feels. So in the end, there is a very high probability of bias, and so the feature that you will develop based on those interviews won't be really viable and needed and beloved. And also, the last con is limited sample size. You can interview 10 people or 20 people, but if you have a user group of like 1,000 people, etc., you can do the in-depth interviews, but you have to solidify them with data. And for some quantitative analysis methods, it's just not the way. So that's it for me for today. I'm curious to hear your questions, and I really appreciate that you take your time and listen to myself.
Thank you, Vladislav, for your presentation. And I suppose that we can start with our questions. And I suggest you to start with some communicational question. So you said the designers did not communicate well. Who was responsible for communication with subject matter experts? And do you think that the pure communication of designers should be fixed?
Let's take a look at this question from several points. So first of all, there was no, at that particular project, there was no design lead. So designer was a part of the PO team. So basically all the communications among the teams were aligned through the POs. And each PO provided the information for the designer and for the team itself. So POs and BAs were people who communicated with SMEs and with stakeholders. And designers at first were mostly involved in implementing the requirements developed by the PO or BA. And maybe some of them they tried to do some user testing, but that was the approach that was at the project. So to get the better understanding of the subject, to get the designers involved in the some kind of requirement solicitation and gathering, so they will understand the context more, and that was very beneficial because it reduced the time of eventually reduced the time of passing those requirements to the designers, and they were already in the context, so it was faster and easier to communicate. So I hope I have answered you the question.
Thank you. Next question. How did you find interviewees who answered the questions, and how many interviews did you conduct?
At the very first step of the customer journey map, we have identified basically the whole flow of the product, and the nature of the product was such that some of the models were used by one team of end users, and some of the models were used by a different team, and some of them used by both teams. So first of all, we have gone through this customer journey map and identified the user groups for the interviews. And after that, we came to the leads of those teams to ask for some people, like for the availability for the interviews. And also we have collected lots of data from the support requests. So people that were, I would say, kind of often writing so some kind of claims or suggestions to the product development or about some issues and errors. We also take a look at them. We perform some analysis to understand which part of the product they are interacting with the most. And our interview team was size of 20 or 25 people. And the number of teams from there were basically three departments that were using the product. So it's like 7 or 8 people from for a department.
Thank you. And how do you think who should conduct interviews, business analysts or designers?
It always depends if you have time. Basically, the UX specialist has his own or her own approach to the issue, and they are trying to gain this kind of information. And BAs do the same, probably the same job from the different perspective. It really varies from the project itself. So at our project, we had an opportunity, we had time, we had, as I can say, money to do proper research. So we allocated resources of both of myself and the UX UI specialist to conduct the interviews. For some parts, as of my previous experience, BAs were the ones who conducted the interviews and gained requirements and then passed to the UX UI specialist. It can also be a very nice and effective approach. Everything depends on the exact case and the capacity and the deadlines. I really liked the experience of conducting the interviews with the UX UI specialist in collaboration, because we were like yin and yang, and I asked one question and she asked different questions, and in general we get the better picture.
Thank you. What was the most interesting question you had for the interview? Did you have any questions where you might have received the right responses?
For the interview, like the very first and the very basic question was, look, we have this kind of like functionality. Could you please explain what do you do and how do you use it? And from that basic question provided so much context and provided so much that much foundation for the further questions and insights, etc. So this was probably like the basic one and probably like the most loved one. And for the varied answers, we had this kind of situation for one model, because I can try to give you a bit context, because one of the models of the platform was to extract data from the some kind of data storage, data lake or whatever. And this piece of platform was used in 3 different ways by each team. So first one, use it as a like online, so you just upload the information and do your job instantly, building the flow, etc. The second case was that people have done some preparation and they upload the data. They just take a link to the data, and then they send the whole flow to be scheduled and to be implemented. So that was the second case. And the third case was very interesting way. So they just basically used the data uploading functionality to make some analysis, because the model provided some like very high level analysis on the data. So for those 3 cases, we had very interesting and very varying and different responses, but that gave us opportunity to some kind of to take a look at the bigger picture, to understand what is best for each user group. Maybe it could have been done. It could have affected the role model. So so each user could use like only the one part of the functionality of the whole model and don't be distracted by the other ones. So all in all, when we had our responses very different, we conducted a little interviews with the UX mockups for among those users with the various ways to implement the stuff. And also we have aligned with the product management team, so we basically decided with the help of those people how to develop the feature itself for the future.
Thanks. Next question. At the interviews, were you getting the feedback on as is or on hypothetic to be customer journey?
First of all, when we tried to identify the issues, it was as is from the very beginning. And when we proceeded further, when we saw an opportunity, we would also like to ask them, how do you think? What would it be like? What would be the best way for you to do some stuff, or like what? How do you expect this stuff to be like implemented or something? So basically, we did both.
Thanks. In your interview, do you also ask about how, at what point you want to gather information about the user? For example, user click, step, scroll behavior.
Could you please repeat the question?
In your interview, do you ask also about how, at what point, I suppose your customer wants to gather some information about the user, some like, I suppose it's like a Google Analytics or like Adobe Analytics information. Do you ask this information on your interviews, or it's like maybe a separate interviews or separate work of another teammates?
It was for some like very low level, very detailed interactions. It was so because we had a huge disagreement on the way those data extraction models were working. So we had to dig really deep into the theme and understand like the behavior of each another UX and UI element. And for the Google Analytics and all the other probable instruments to get the information about the like customer and user behavior without like interviewing them, it was like separate theme for the separate feature. Hope I answered your question.
I think so. So how did you analyze the customer journey map? Was any kind of customer interaction involved in this analysis? I know it's our audience answer. I know interviews to be one of the methods to understand customer journey and emotions, but I see that you conducted them afterwards at stage number 3.
Yeah, so first of all, we had some kind of like I haven't came there to the Greenfield project. There was some documentation that there were on the way how product works. There were some schemes, and there was something like customer journey. So first of all, we took a look at that documentation, at the information that we knew. So this was like the fastest way, the easiest way, and for our exact task, it was enough to understand the possible pain points. And as the result of those interviews, we have updated that information and made the proper, like real one CGM. So we had to find out the way to approach, at least to approach the issue, and we did a little prep, and then by the interviews we enriched that information.
Thanks. Are you managing diagrams if you are owner of these artifacts, keeping them up to date?
We have agreed, like, firstly, yes, I was the one because I was the most involved person in this process, but afterwards we have agreed on during the course of the project. I also led a team of BAs, and I have contributed a lot to the delivery process itself. So we have changed a bit our roles and responsibilities, and the responsibility was shared. So basically, we used each of us, each of BAs and each of UX UI specialists, if there were those in the team, we were contributing to the CGM, and we have agreed that we will have synchronization sessions. So if there are some changes which are very notable and we should be like approved or not, or given some more context, we had those questions during those synchronization sessions, and we had also had this Confluence plugin that allowed us to make some people responsible for the page, and so each of them should have approved the that increment. So without the approval, it will stay like as not up to date. So that was it. Yeah.
Thanks. And next question, I suppose my number one. Did you estimate the resources invested to in-depth interviews after the revenue growth as the values brought to the bank due to the customer journey change?
It was estimated, but not in terms of return of investments and like money wise. But the thing was, the product itself was at a risk because of notable dissatisfaction of the users, which led to even questioning if the team and the product is useful and needed and sufficient. So the goal was to implement a solution in 2 or 3 months, and to get it to that level that all the like main pain points would be liquidated, and the next like iteration of like PI session with the product management and some of major stakeholders, we could have presented results that our customers are satisfied. So it's like it was more focused on not being extinct as a product, so and to be like alive, not only not on the money. And for that, it was like the price of conducting those interviews was tiny to the amount of money which were invested into the product development itself.
Thanks. One relaxed question. Do you have probably a short, fun, near fail story from the interviews?
Let me think a bit. We had one user, like it was like a fail, but we had one user who there was a lady who was so enthusiastic. She had so many ideas that we had to stop her after like 40 minutes of expressing her thoughts, and it was really tough to guide her because she had so many ideas and so many commentary on each and every part. And like when we have asked her a little question about some kind of experience, she just provided us with with like 15 minutes answer, and you cannot interrupt her. So this was like the funniest case. And after that, she just noted myself, and she also like was sending me like 3 letters a week with suggested improvements. But it's the benefit of the personal connection.
Okay. And how did you share the work, and what did you feel as business analyst to the UX research process?
What do you mean to feel? Like, can you please
Yes.
tell the question once
How
again?
did you share the work, I suppose, between BAs and UX UI designers? And what did you feel as a business analyst to the UX research process?
See. So we are gonna process in such way. We had agreed on like several steps. as we have seen previously. And for each step, we took some time to prepare our notes and prepare some information and approaches. And then we met. We had like 1 hour or session of brainstorming with the UX UI specialist. I agreed on some stuff, agreed on the further plan, and we did some of those iterations until we got all of the necessary information for going further. And as for the interviews, we were equally participating in them, so we were present at any interview, and we were gaining the same information and discussing in the evaluation that information both at the same time. What did I bring to the table as a BA for the UX UI? I would say we have agreed a lot on the UX UI kit, which was very crucial because we had identified during those interviews also the inconsistencies among the interface elements, and I took my part to collect all those little bits which are not the same but have the same functionality, and provided this list with the explanation with the business context for the UX UI specialist, so she could take a look at it, think at it, and remake the UX UI kit. It was one of the examples.
Okay, and I suppose that two last questions for today.
Sure.
How do you deal with cases when end user refuses to do the interviews, or what kind of difficulties you can face with during the communication with the end users, and how you manage to solve this issue?
Yeah, there were a few users which could be described as rude a bit, but it's always the case of empathy, and when somebody is dissatisfied with the interview and with the process, or like in general with the conversation, we were trying to understand what was the point, and there was a case that person didn't want to collaborate in any way, and we, like, after one round of interview, we understood that, and we had to exclude him from the group. So that was unfortunately the solution, because the common ground couldn't be found. But we have invited the person to the UAT, so to get his point of view also. So he was like not completely dismissed from the process.
Thanks. And last question for today. Which techniques do you usually use to analyze data after the interview? Maybe affinity mapping, value proposition, canvas, or any other?
We did canvas. The other ones I hadn't opportunity to use in my professional career, but I hope to use some of them. But for this case, yeah, we have used the canvas.
Perfect. I suppose that's all Q&A session for today. Thank you, Vladislav, for all your answers, for sharing the experience. And I suppose that your answers and your experience will help our audience to catch something and to emphasize something very interesting for them. And I suppose it was very intense Q&A session and very significant for us. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us. You can give thank you badges for our speaker, and also it's possible to put a rating on the event page. You can find the link in our chat. And have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.